Welcome back to LePodcast episode 59. As always, you're here with Hoop, Saney, and the infamous CZ Huncho. Today's episode is brought to us from G Money in Discord. He wanted us to rank the top playoff duos in both the East and the West. We're going to start with the East, all 10, including the play-in teams. So we'll go reverse order through our list. That'll be the meat and potatoes of the show. But before we do that, March Madness starts today, and I know we're an NBA pod, so we're not going to cover it all that much, but it's fun to make a bracket. Did you guys make one?
No, I haven't made a bracket since like high school, man. Ever since like I started university and like all the work on the side, it's kind of hard to keep up with March Madness. I watch the games, but like I'm not watching college basketball throughout the year. So if I'm making a bracket, I'm genuinely just clicking random teams or placing random teams in random spots.
Hey, I heard Drake is in the tournament this year.
What?
There's a college called Drake, and all the memes are, Aubrey.
I saw something that UNC isn't in the tournament.
And they had the same roster as last year, I believe. Like, I haven't watched much college ball this year either, but I know they had Baycott and Caleb Love from last year's championship game.
Love. I remember Love. Yeah. That's insane. That's sad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the product is just getting worse with OTE and the G League. Like, all the best players are not necessarily in college right now.
That's true too. I mean, I don't know. I was always I think the last time I did a bracket was sophomore year high school. Sophomore year or junior year. Back when John Morant was at Murray State, and I just remember all the hype. We were at a Boo Williams sports complex tournament, and if y'all have ever been there, it's basically like it's in Virginia. Allen Iverson played there. Like, it's this big facility, concession, TVs everywhere. And I remember just watching them just reporters on ESPN just talking about John Morant. Funny as hell that now, fast forward 4 or 5 years later, we're in this situation. But I was like, oh my God, this kid's actually tough. Like, he has an underdog story, whatever. So yeah, I think I did a bracket back then. I know I didn't get it right. I did the same exact thing Sandy does, where I'm just
you didn't get it right, bro. The odds.
Yeah. If you got it right, you wouldn't be sitting here. You'd be sitting with Bill Gates.
Obviously,
and Jeff Bezos.
The odds are like 1 in 9 quintillion.
Yeah, it's obviously terrible. I just did it for when I would go through certain teams that I hadn't watched, I would just be like, okay, which team name sounds like they would win, or which team name sounds like an underdog. This one. That was literally how I did it.
Loyola Chicago, national champions. Yeah, I've filled out a bracket every year since I was probably 10 or 11. Not doing it this year, though, only because obviously you never get it right. I haven't gotten it right in the past. I'm not going to lie. I haven't gotten it right yet. But it always makes me root for a team. And there's a good outcome. They're all mostly bad because after you mess up the first one, I'm not really rooting for... it could go only worse from there. So I'm not doing it so I can simply enjoy everything, because I think a big part of what makes it so fun compared to other professional sports is that you can get a 13 seed that ends up in the top 4. And they like the 16, what was the one team that knocked off Virginia that one year? Man, the 16 seed, UMBC. Right? Bro, that can happen. So that's why it's so fun. I'm not doing a bracket, too stressful, but hey, you guys out there, definitely do it. Worth the investment. It doesn't cost a dime, and you could win $1 billion if you get it perfect. So that's a solid.
That's a big ass if. Don't fool them like that.
Hey,
it's gonna be a bunch of 12-year-olds like, oh my God, who said I could win $1 million?
$1 billion. Warren Buffett promised. But Z, I know your team Longwood, your school, was in the tournament last year. Are they in it this year?
Against Tennessee. No, they are not. Last year was great. It was very great. The entire run was special. Pack the Hall was our slogan.
Wait, did you win a game last year?
We did not win the first round game against Tennessee.
Run?
But it was fun.
What run?
It was a good run. Hey, shut up. It was a good run.
Good run through the first quarter?
Because,
the first quarter?
Listen.
No, it was a good run to get into the court and sit down and run back home.
Have any of y'all's universities ever made it to the March Madness tournament?
No, Southern New Hampshire online school has never been in.
That's right. I just didn't think so.
Dalhousie wins the AUS league like every year, bro.
I don't even know what that is. Anyway, the point is that last year, the reason that I said it was a special run was because it was the first time in our school's history that we made it to the March Madness tournament. Selection night, all of that was absolutely insane. Like, if you were on campus, and we were a small school, so like to be able to experience that is something that we could genuinely say we were the first there, or first classes to, witness that. Packing the hall is our slogan, which was for Willett Hall. Jerome Kersey, NBA 17-year vet, played at my school. So if you don't have to, so for all y'all making jokes out there about us, suck it. Jerome Kersey.
You're flaunting Jerome Kersey.
Legend. I'm flaunting a 17-year career there.
Let's get into this list, man. I'm not about to talk about Jerome Kersey on this.
Y'all better stop disrespecting that man. Y'all better stop playing like he ain't got a clear shot to be Portland's, greatest franchise player. I mean, Dame did it with a Rookie of the Year, and he got a ring. So I mean, damn. I mean, I guess Jerome Kersey might have a shot too.
Clyde Drexler.
Bill Walton doesn't exist. He brought y'all a ring.
Bill
Walton doesn't exist.
It's Bill Walton. It's always going to be Bill Walton. Dame is not going to be the greatest
he gets a ring
of all time.
It's Bill
that's
Walton.
Crazy. It's Bill Walton.
He gets a ring. It is Dame though.
It is for sure.
Why don't we get on to our list? We're doing the top 10 Eastern Conference playoff duos. Hoop, do you mind going over the 10 teams that are currently considered to be in the run for the playoffs? Because I feel like this list is going to change by the end of the season.
So as of right now,
so the viewers have
we're recording Tuesday, March 16th at about noon. So the games today haven't happened yet.
Tuesday, March 16th?
Oh, it's Thursday. Sorry. It said T. It said T. Now that I'm graduated from college, I don't pay attention to the days. I just saw the T on my computer. All right. It's Thursday, March 16th. Teams in the East. Number 1, Milwaukee. 2, Boston. 3, Philly. 4, Cleveland. 5, New York. 6, Brooklyn. 7, Miami. 8, Atlanta. 9, Toronto. And 10, Washington. That means we're not ranking Chicago with Levine and DeRozan. We're not ranking Indiana with, I guess, Turner and Halliburton. No Orlando, no Charlotte, no Detroit. Every time I see Detroit, I just remember saying they'd be higher than the New York Knicks. That's all I gotta say.
They got injured.
You mean one player? Cade was not taking them to the 4th seed.
How did the 2018 Cavaliers make the finals? One player. I'm just saying.
He's comparing
peak
LeBron to Cade Cunningham.
No, obviously I'm joking, but nobody listen. Not only did I not expect the Pistons to be the bottom seed because Cade got injured and they gave up on the season, I didn't expect the Knicks to be a top 4 seed, and I don't think you did either. All right,
I said they would finish 5 games over 500. They're 10, so they exceeded my expectations. Yes, I got visual proof on that on my TikTok.
Whoop-de-doo. Let's get on this list.
Well, we're gonna have to rank Randall and Brunson on this list too. So and not Cade and Jaden Ivey. We're gonna do the classic reverse reveal. Who wants to start us off? I feel bad putting myself first.
I'll go
first.
first.
Saney, go. Saney Z than me.
All
right.
At my 10 spot, I have the Brooklyn Nets with Bridges and Dinwiddie. I thought this was kind of an obvious one. They're not really a solidified duo yet in terms of when it comes to playoff time. The Nets clearly, like, they strive off of team basketball. They're not oriented around 2 guys and then they do all the dirty work. Their success comes from a team effort. It's hilarious how I'm not saying Bridges and Simmons, even though Simmons makes like the most money on that team.
Sad.
And we're saying Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges. But not to say that these 2 are bad, but just out of the rest of the duos I have, I consider them to be the worst.
Oh crap. Sorry.
Jerome Kersey fan page.
Oh God, bro, I'm gonna start it for sure. At my number 10 spot, I actually have Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam.
Lord.
Actually,
no, we're not doing that, dog.
And it could be considered a hot take, but if we're talking about based off of this season, which is where I was more or less going for, because these top bottom feeding, 6 through 4 spots or 7 through 4 spots, it's pretty much a toss up. I understand Saney's take on Macau and Spence. They're at my number 9 spot. I completely understand that. But I was more or less going off of the fact that we haven't necessarily seen Macau Bridges get playoff minutes. And if Brooklyn is able to stay above the water like they have been, with Macau Bridges having these sporadic moments, with Spencer Dinwiddie coming back into the system, and knowing the system well, and to be honest with you, I don't really know. It could even be Macau and Cam Johnson. You don't really know with this Brooklyn Nets team. You really don't know. But that's why I still have them low. But I would say Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam is more or less where I'm going, because I used to think Fred VanVleet was really, really tough in the playoffs, because I thought back to that 2019 finals run just because he hit some big shots. But I mean, over the course of his career, you can look back at his years in the playoffs. It's not big numbers. It's barely, I think, 10 points a game. So
that
I'm going to take my chances with that.
Was, I believe, 10 points. We'll get to it. Is that all?
Yeah, we'll get to it. But yeah, that's it. For that.
I have McHale and Spencer. I thought that was
I like it.
I thought it was clearly the bottom feeder.
I thought that was obvious.
When we get to our Raptors placement, I'd love to hear the discourse on that. But let's get to 9.
But
Mr. Saney.
At number 9, I actually have Porzingis and Kuzma. The reason I have there is because the Wizards duo is not as talented as the rest of the conference, in my opinion, when it comes to their top 2 players. They don't match up with the rest of the guys on the list in terms of come playoff time, I need a win, or I need 2 guys that I can count on. I don't think I could, this season they could prove me wrong, but I mean, headed into the season, I think their placement in the Eastern Conference is more than enough proof on why I have them last. I think they're 10th, and they're barely 10th. But they might get knocked out of this list by the time the season's over, and the Bulls might take their spot. So that's why I have them at 9th. I mean, there's definitely some talent there. I mean, Kuzma's tough now. Porzingis is tough now. But in terms of duos go heading into playoff time, I got to put them at 9.
Obviously, my number 9 was Macau and Spence. Already went over that.
You got the Wizards. Don't say it, but
I mean, they're not that far off. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
I actually used Brad Beal and Porzingis. I think Beal's experience will lead to him getting more shots. I mean, it's not going to matter because I think they're getting bounced anyway.
Yeah.
But if they were to play a 7-game series, I think Beal would be 26, 27 a game as opposed to splitting the work with Kuzma evenly. Because Brad Beal is a certified scorer who could do it at all 3 levels, proven. I think it would most likely be him and Porzingis. But that's,
I do agree with you. I do agree with you completely. The only reason I said Kuzma is because Brad Beal's touches in the regular season went down, and I thought we were assuming the 2 best players heading into the playoffs. But I mean, either way, the Wizards are nice.
With me on this list, a lot of times it's based on this season, but I use information from past years. Obviously, experience matters. So I'm assuming when we get to the playoffs, what is going to happen. A lot of that means stuff from this year, but
yeah. I agree. Either way, Wizards at 9. We can agree on that.
Let's not spend too much time on GC. Hey, shout out Wizards fans, but Brad Beal being the top 5 highest paid player in the league is crazy.
It is.
It is
absolutely
I'm still bewildered by that fact.
This is where some controversy might start between us. I know me and Hoop have had the same list. I'm not sure if he agrees with me on this one. But at number 8, I have Rand. No, imagine.
I was trying to keep calm because I knew you were going that route.
At number 8, I have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. I think those two, their inconsistency is my biggest reason why. And I did look into how Trae Young performed last year in the playoffs, especially as well in that Heat series. Oh my God, I have never seen a superstar, I'm doing the finger quotations, disappear like that in a playoff series. Murray has not been as good as people thought he would be for the Hawks. He is not playing at that all-star-esque level that he played in San Antonio. Poor shooting numbers and inability to consistently win games. I got to put them at 8th. Also, Trae Young's inability to work with a coach. I don't know. I think Hoop was the one who brought this up to me, where people are going to start realizing that Trae Young is uncoachable.
So I don't want to, try to speak that into a narrative, because I asked someone in our Discord. First off, if you're not in the Discord, bro, we got 150 members in there right now. It's popping. So if you guys listen to the show regularly, it's a perfect spot to be, because there's other people who not only listen to the show but just love basketball in general. We don't talk about our podcast that much. It's more just an NBA group chat.
Look up LePodcast on any of our social medias. It's in our bio, in our link tree, in case you're
Yeah, but
wondering
we'd
where
love to
get the
have you.
link.
But basically, there was a Hawks fan in there, and I asked him like, is the narrative around Trae Young being a cancer valid? And he was like, no, it's not. So I don't know if that's him being a Hawks fan, but or if it's just the media blowing things out of proportion. But I know they're hovering for a reason. So obviously they're talented enough to be in a play-in spot, but we have to see how things play out in the future.
Yeah, I feel that. So for me, my number 8 spot is actually the Washington Wizards. And it's basically for the same reasons that one of you just listed about Bradley Beal's experience level, because I also have Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis as my duo going in. I thought about Kuz, but then I was like, Porzingis has been in the playoffs with this team a couple of times. I can at least say, yeah, you got it. And this season, he's averaging like 23 a game, something like that. So Beal, last time he was in the playoffs, this is that 2021 season, if I'm not mistaken, averaged 30 a game. I know he was hurt, I'm pretty sure, like around playoff time or walking into playoff time. So it was incredible that he even got that much. But I just think that Beal's scoring ability, even though it's not going to amount to anything, it might amount to at least one play-in game, and that's it. Who knows? But I just think that if I'm banking on a guy on the Wizards to give me 30 for a one pivotal game, it's Bradley Beal. Give me 30, give me 40, he's going to get it. Porzingis, I can only hope, would chip in the way that he's been chipping in, because he's had a pretty solid season so far. But yeah, I would say the Wizards for me are at 8. I don't know about you, Hoop.
Bro, Brad Beal is going to give you documentary numbers. He's going to give you 30 points for 30, bro. He's going to give you 30 for 30.
That's a good one. That's a good one. At my number 8, I have Trae and DeJounte. I also have to clarify because we obviously said it's playoff duos, but like we're taking 2 players and not the rest of the team. So when you're thinking about all this, I'm just talking to the viewers in particular who might be thinking of their duos. Like imagine the rest of the team is not there. Like what do these 2 guys provide value-wise? For example, if we were in the West, the Mavericks being a play-in team has no indication on Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic not being a top 3 duo. Like it's strictly about the duos. So I have Trae and DeJounte at 8. Trae's been inconsistent. I know at his best, he's a very good playoff performer when it matters, but he hasn't shown up all the time. And DeJounte Murray has not panned out the way people have wanted it to be. Trae Young is a huge defensive liability, the biggest in the league. So until
and he hasn't shown up since 2021. He had one
good
year in the playoffs.
Like
that's
he has that ridiculous playmaking and shot making ability, but he needs to have that for him to move up, because the whole reason Trae Young is in the league is to do that stuff, because he's not playing any defense. He's a liability. They need to build around him. That's the reason they got DeJounte. So unless he does his job, like they're not going to be a good playoff team.
It's looking like me and Hoop's list are going to be identical. Because I don't like that. The way your criteria is, I don't know. We'll see. I hope we have some differences, because I'm trying to argue. I already got some bones to pick with Z, with Mikhail not being 10. But
I can't wait.
At number 7, I have the Raptors. I have VanVleet and Siakam. Again, consistency plays a factor. I think both of those guys have the talent to make a deep playoff run. The Raptors have time and time again at least made it to the second round. Like they are like. They do have great playoff experience. They do know what needs to be done. They know
you're talking about experience,
and they're also champions.
I was saying, don't use the playoff.
No, I'm just saying, like,
you're saying they get to the second round.
I'm just saying
the
experience.
Raptors get to the second round.
Yeah, right. But they like if we're speaking in terms of duos, like again, like VanVleet is a player that is known to at least turn the knob a little when it comes to playoff time. Siakam, I do like, right? So that's why I'm gonna put them at 7. If Trae and Murray were consistent, more consistent this season in terms of just their shooting numbers, I would have them over. They're very close in terms of if you put the Hawks or the Raptors in a series, like those 2 duos, it could go either way. But I'm gonna have to put VanVleet and Siakam over them. Siakam is also an all-star this season. He's been playing great. People have really been undervaluing Siakam as a player this season. VanVleet has been very inconsistent, but Siakam puts them in that 7th spot for me.
So for my 7th spot, it's the Atlanta Hawks, bro. What do you mean? And here's the thing: my 7 and 8, they're interchangeable based off of the facts that they have already provided about Trae Young. And when you look at the inconsistencies and the fact that DeJounte Murray is literally, Hoop said it best. DeJounte Murray, I feel like, is the type of player that we looked at when he got traded to Atlanta, and we said, "Oh my God, the whole identity of the squad is going to change, especially for Trae, right? Maybe some load will be taken off of him. But in the meantime, what we've gotten is a bunch of inconsistencies from Trae Young. But at the same time, Trae Young has already been proven. He's been in the playoffs twice, and he's proven a couple of things. A, he can be a liability, a.k.a. last year in the playoffs against Miami Heat, he shot, I think, 11 or 12% from three or something like that. And then the year prior, against a team like the New York Knicks, where you have not only a hostile crowd that you have to deal with, but you are not only dealing with that, cooking the New York Knicks in the process, and then you got your team miraculously to the Eastern Conference Finals. Albeit Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons, but whatever, you got him there. So for me, I think Trae is one of those players where he can be a liability defensive-wise. He can be a liability with his inconsistencies. But I've seen his inconsistencies not be inconsistencies in the playoffs once out of his 2 trips. So I can genuinely say, you know what? Maybe we can give him another year or so.
That's
right?
The definition of inconsistency.
He's had two seasons. The sample size isn't the same thing. The sample size is the thing.
Trae Young did not shoot great in his Eastern Conference Finals playoff run.
Yes, but when you look back at that team that he had and the help that he has right now in DeJounte Murray, the reason DeJounte Murray is there was based off of that.
You think this
the little
team
amount
is
of offensive
better
help
than
that he
that
had,
other team?
I don't think that this team is better than the other team as in terms of like building around Trae, like with Clint Capella and John and God, what's his name?
John Collins.
The flyer, high flyer, John Collins. I think that for Trae Young, though, when you look back at that 2021 team and you look at who you were asking to answer the call and to score the basketball, it was Trae Young. Anything that they had to do, it was Trae Young. Pick and roll with Clint Capella was like a second option. Throwing lobs to John Collins was the third option. This year, however, if they're going into the playoffs, that's a big if. But I mean, hey, you have another scorer in a DeJounte Murray who can get it done, or at least create his own shot. Who doesn't need Trae Young to be there to help him create a shot. That's all I'm saying. But like I did say, 7 and 8 is interchangeable. It's still interchangeable because that's
a cop out.
7 through 10 doesn't mean a damn thing compared to this top 5 list we're about to get.
All I gotta say. Know is that you said Trae Young's inconsistencies weren't inconsistent for a year out of his 2 years. That was the craziest argument I've heard.
You're a Knicks fan, so of course it's crazy to you. You're still butthurt from that series, but that's fine.
Said he was
it's totally fine. Julius Randle made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You're sitting here fucking singing his praises.
I did not bring up the Knicks one time.
You didn't. I did for you. I know you wanted to, but I did for you.
I'm just saying,
anyway,
you described inconsistencies perfectly by saying that he wasn't inconsistent and the time that he played well during his inconsistencies.
I don't like being on the hot seat at the 7th ranked team right now. Let's keep moving. I don't give a damn about Atlanta. Oh my God.
At number 7, I have Van Vliet and Siakam. Me and Saney are looking identical right now for some reason. But yeah, Van Vliet has been inefficient, but he's always been inefficient. And I think from a field standpoint, that's not that big of a deal. But if he's hitting threes, which I expect him to, I know he's had a down year and Raptors fans really don't like him, or at least they did to start the season. I do think come playoff time that him being your playmaker is more valuable than having like OG, for example. Like I know maybe some Raptors fans or some other fans are thinking, it should be OG and Siakam. I still think come playoff time, their best chance to move and their 2 most valuable assets in the playoffs are still Van Vliet and Siakam.
OG isn't a player you play through. He's
That's
a
what
player
I'm saying.
You have on a
so
championship
like
team.
he might be like the better fit player and the better player right now, but their most valuable piece is still Siakam and Van Vliet. Also, I mean, Siakam's defensive presence is what I think should absolutely keep him away from that 10 spot. I just don't see him under the Nets. I don't. But we could talk about that later. I mean, we do want to discuss like the top 5 teams. So, I mean, we could talk about Mikal and Spencer, whatever. But
you just praise.
I thought that was nuts.
I'm praying that hoops. I pray that hoops list it starts to get different here because if he's the same here, then it's going to be very hard to start. Anyway, at number 6, I have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Now, a big reason I have them at number 6 is because now when we head into the top 5, we have a lot of like 2-way bigger guys that you can put more of a load on pause if you were to come like, yeah, you guys know what I mean, man.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I'm
yes,
sorry.
you do.
I am
Listen,
not familiar with that
I am
game.
not
right
familiar
now.
with
I'm
that.
not familiar.
Let me continue. Obviously, Donovan and Darius Garland, they're both very
See,
talented
he's talking
guys.
faster because he's
both
embarrassed.
all-star level guards. Both all-star level guards, okay? But at the end of the day, they're both undersized. They're both liabilities when it comes to defense compared to the top 5 duos that I'm about to mention. Defense plays a huge factor because the other guys on this list are just as gifted offensively, but they have that other end of the court taken care of. So, and a lot of the Cavs' success, obviously, it runs through Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, but that team is built like very well, right? Like they have a lot of post presence. Their front court is great. And then obviously Donovan Mitchell and Garland, those guys are both heat checks. They could just shoot the lights out on any given night. But because they're both undersized guards, like Donovan Mitchell's a shooting guard at 6'2", right? I got to put them at number 6.
It's the first time me and Sandy have agreed on something all show, bro. Oh my God. I also have the Cleveland Cavaliers at 6. And it's more so because of Donovan Mitchell, obviously, because Darius Garland hasn't made it to the playoffs yet. And if you look, like Sandy said, when you look at the construction and the makeup of the team around them, even though we're not supposed to, if those two play well, play like how they're supposed to, everything is going to click for them. Like, that's the missing piece. You have, I know we can't really talk about it, but they have Evan Mobley's and Jared Allen's for a reason, right? Like, they have, defenders on their team to do the things that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are criticized for, which is mainly defense. They can score their asses off. So looking at Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he's a 28 per game scorer for his career in the playoffs. Like, bro's proven to be him. Bro's proven that him and Jamal Murray, 50 back and forth was insane. So Donovan Mitchell has proven in the playoffs that he at least can score buckets. He may have come up on the losing end of the stick, but at the same time, I mean, come on, it's D-Mitch. Like, the way that those two work off each other too is another great thing. Like, for nights where you expect Donovan Mitchell to go off, and if he's a little shaky, he can rely on Darius Garland. Like, if D-Mitch has 17, Garland can give you 31, 32. Vice versa. That's what I like about this duo, is that if they're both hitting, they're dangerous. But if one's hitting and the other one isn't, they got to figure out how to, maybe Darius Garland plays point guard a little bit more, distributes, something like that. They have a lot of weapons. So I'm going to go definitely D-Mitch and Garland for 6. Here we go.
I'm happy with you guys, but I think you're maybe a too unrealistic. I have my Knicks with Randall and Brunson at 6. I think when Saney said that there's a bigger guy who you can, I'm not going to say that, but you could put more on his plate. I think
really?
You said they bring value on the other side of the ball. Randall's a good. He's not a liability as a team defender, but he's not a Siakam. He's not an Embiid. And Brunson's a defensive liability as well. The Knicks, the team runs through the offense wise through Randall and Brunson. Without them, they would create zero offense. I told you already that RJ Barrett doesn't create his own shots that much. He can get to the basket a little bit, but you're not going to create any offense without them. And their offense has been good this year because of Randall and Brunson. But when it gets to playoff time and it's less transition, their offense is very scrappy. They're not a good shooting team. They can create a little bit, but it's a lot of offensive rebounds, good defensive possessions, and Brunson, like we said, ISO. They're good closers. Like Brunson, I have no issue saying that he can close a fourth quarter with the best of them. But comparing him to Donovan Mitchell, I can't. I think Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell both are nice 3-level scorers, which is really valuable for the playoffs. I'm not going to say that Randall's going to flop like he did 2 years ago, because I put up a whole argument on the Players' Choice show when I went in undercover that he was going to be better this year. And I do think he's going to be a lot better. And I just don't think that he's going to provide much value that Garland and Mitchell can't. They're both, I think all 4 of them are offensive players. Randall's a bit more dynamic in that he's a big, and I think he plays really well off of Brunson. But when Donovan Mitchell is in that group of 4, like he could go for 65 in a playoff game. Like, I would not be surprised. And that kind of talent is not found like almost anywhere else. So I think his neck sticks, head and shoulders above Brunson. And while I love the Knicks with my dear heart, the reason they would win a playoff series is because the offense is good enough and the defense is crazy. Like if you watch the Knicks, their defense is nuts. Quickly, Grimes, Barrett when he wants to. Like Mitchell Robinson, very, very good defenders. The team defense has been crazy with Josh Hart being added. They'd win a very scrappy series when I think Cleveland with that duo can just shoot the lights out. So as a playoff duo, looking at just the two players, what they give you offensively, because that's all they're really giving you, I'm going with the Cavs, and I put the Knicks at 6.
Okay, well, I put the Knicks at 5.
Wait,
I think
you're going to explain anyway. I wanted to hear what you wanted to say about the two-way play, but go ahead.
Okay, well, the main reason I put the Knicks at 5 is because, like, hearing you talk, I do understand that Donovan Mitchell is and especially in the playoffs, he will turn up. I'm also judging Donovan Mitchell on the fact that I've seen him time and time again get bounced out the first round, no matter how well he plays in the regular season. And obviously, we've seen Julius Randle flop a little in 2021, but a big reason I put them at 5 is because of Jalen Brunson. I mean, obviously, I love Julius Randle, and I think Julius Randle works very well off of Jalen Brunson. But I think a factor that you didn't really discuss is not only Jalen Brunson's ability to close out a game, but his playmaking ability as well. The Knicks are a completely different team when Jalen Brunson is on the court compared to when he's off. The Knicks' offense is Jalen Brunson. Without Jalen Brunson, that offense is a mess. Both Brunson and Randle took huge leaps this season. Randle is looking more polished than ever. He looks to have more confidence in his jumper, especially from deep. My issue with Donovan and Darius Garland is that we can see Darius Garland disappear at times. Donovan Mitchell in a playoff series, he can go for a lot, but to me, it's more like, is that contributing to winning, right? Because we've seen it time and time again where the offense flows through Donovan Mitchell and it doesn't work. I trust Jalen Brunson more in a playoff series than I would Darius Garland. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is the best player out of the 4, but when we're looking at a pair of 2 guys compared to another pair of 2 guys, I got to go with the Knicks, and I got to take Randle and Brunson.
I agree. I have at my 5 spot Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, and I'm actually shocked as hell right now because hoopology. How dare you? You criticized me a couple of episodes ago for, oh my God, ZZ Huncho left the Knicks and he went to the Warriors, and how do you feel and all that. I have more faith in your team in the playoffs than you do, it seems. I mean, damn.
I just said how they'd win. I think we beat the Cavs.
And so, okay, I was about to ask
y'all are sleeping on Donovan Mitchell.
I'm not sleeping on that, man.
I get we're ranking duos. I'm not judging you. I didn't say you didn't believe in the Knicks. I know we're judging duo by duo, but there's 2 players to take into account when it comes to the duo, not just the one. Donovan Mitchell is the best. Donovan Mitchell is the best out of the 4, but as a partnership, I would rather take Randle and Brunson, because if there's a night where Donovan Mitchell disappears, can I really trust Garland to carry that load?
That's literally taking the words out of my mouth.
I hate to do this because he's my favorite player. Can you trust Julius Randle to carry the load when Brunson?
Yes.
Dog.
Yes. If Brunson's in the game, no. It's not. It's a difference. It's a difference if Brunson is out or if Brunson is in the game. Because if Brunson's in the game and he's not hitting shots, but he still brings that playmaking ability to Julius Randle, that's a different story.
I agree with you.
But if we're talking Jalen Brunson, if Jalen Brunson isn't on the court, well then yes, Randle doesn't have a true point guard beside him to help play make and to help get him open. So that's a different story. We're talking about both the players on the court at the same time. Let's say Donovan Mitchell goes cold. What is Darius Garland?
Still a great playmaker.
He is.
He's still great. He's still great.
But this is his first playoffs. This is his first playoffs.
But no. It's not about the playoffs. I'm just talking about player like duo against duo. He's still great. But would you rather trust, like you got to think of it as a partnership, man. Like if Brunson starts to go cold and he hands the ball to Randle, I can trust Randle to start hitting shots. But when Donovan goes cold, or
are you believing this?
It's like listen, man. I think I would take them. Yeah, I think Randle and Brunson work better together than Donovan Mitchell and
I think they work extremely well. I just
I think that they work better together by default, low key, because if you think about it, with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson,
what do you mean by default?
Let me spit.
Bro, Donovan Mitchell is on the other side.
I understand that hoop. I get that. We got that. Donovan Mitchell's great. He can score his ass off. We saw 70 points. We saw that. It's great. It's awesome. My thing is, when you look at the partnership, because there is a partnership in a duo, you do your part, I do my part. Jalen Brunson was the answer to the New York Knicks problem last season, which was we have to run the ball through Julius Randle. That sucks. That's a stupid way to play basketball.
That's closing
games.
Yeah,
right?
Games.
And then you got to think about, we've ran the ball through Julius Randle so many times. Then when in the fourth quarter, I guess if it ain't Julius, who we got? RJ. Let's take our chances with RJ Barrett. Now you bring in Julius Brunson, a proven closer-esque. You know what I'm saying? Last year in the playoffs was averaging. Oh, my bad. You bring in Jalen Brunson. My bad. That's wild. That's so wild. You bring in Jalen Brunson, and what's his job to do now? Well, he's there to orchestrate the offense, to set the tempo, to slow the pace down. All of these things that he did in Dallas without Luka Doncic last year. He averaged 22 in the playoffs last year, 22, 5, and 4. Like, for someone his size, that's pretty damn good. And to the point where he ended up getting a max contract from the Knicks. The Knicks wanted him. They needed him for a reason. Now you look at the partnership aspect of this with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. Well, that's a big little combo right there. That's going to work by default the majority of the time, depending on how skilled both men are. In Jalen Brunson's case, he can facilitate his ass off. He can come off the screen, pop a mid-range. He can go in there, drive use his pivot foot, all these things. Garland, and I'm talking about Garland and D. Mitch, right? When you look at them and their pairing, what are they supposed to do? What are you relying on? They both can't play defense as is. You're relying on the offense,
like
right? Like I just said. Right? But Jalen Brunson can do more on the offensive end besides scoring, right? Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, it's a toss-up as to who wants to run point guard some nights.
That's a good thing. They're both great playmakers.
Okay. So
I can't believe I'm arguing for Cleveland, but like I thought y'all
I can't
would
believe
have...
that I'm arguing for New York. This is crazy right now. I feel like Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, neither can I, honestly. I'm like, listen, I don't think they're off by like a mile whatsoever. I'm not arguing that there is a big difference here, but I'm saying if I were to choose a duo come playoff time, I've seen Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs. Obviously, he's a heater. He can go off at certain points, but can he win? I can trust Jalen Brunson to close a game and win for me, right? I've seen Donovan Mitchell fold at certain moments to where games were not closed out, and the Jazz have had multiple times where they've had a lead in a series and they could not finish the job. They've had 3 wins in a series and they could not finish the job. Jalen Brunson, although he's never been a first option, what I'm seeing in the regular season is something that I believe will translate into the playoffs. And then this is going to be the first time ever that we see Randle with a true point guard beside him heading into a playoff series, which is why as a duo, I have to go with the Knicks as a duo because I got to trust both guys. I don't got to just trust one guy. I have to trust both.
All right, let's
I agree.
Let's move on. Everything you're saying, like I love to believe. I just got to see it.
We believe. We believe.
And you got to remember, like this is looking at this regular season.
Yeah. Right. I love Jalen Brunson.
What two guys do I believe in more?
Yeah.
And I believe that Jalen Brunson will bring the best out of Randle, and I believe that those two will work a lot better in the playoffs.
Prayers up.
Prayers up.
Whose turn is that? I don't even know what
if Julius goes on a tear, I'm gonna go on a crazy.
We're on 5.
We're on 5.
Yeah.
Hoop, did you say your 6th spot? I think you did. He said the Knicks. Like he said it was gonna.
So who's your 5th spot? Was it Cleveland?
So we're on the 5th now, right?
For who?
No, we were on the 5th.
Yeah,
that was the 5th.
Cleveland.
The Knicks were the 5th. So that means
top 4.
Cleveland was your 5th. Oh, we're in the top 4 now. So we are in the top 4.
Let's go, baby.
Okay.
Who we got, Sadie?
At 4, I have Jimmy and Bam and the Miami Heat. 2, Jimmy Butler. Freaking love that guy in the playoffs. One of the best two-way players in the league. Bam Adebayo, obviously so underrated defensively and underrated offensively, to be honest. Both of those guys, great players. I don't think there's much explanation needed here because the top 3 are kind of obvious. But obviously these guys deserve to be number 4. They're better than any of the duos outside of the top 3 teams in the East. Their main issue and why they're not winning right now is their team. It has nothing to do with them. But those guys as players, not much reasoning needs to be said. It's self-explanatory. Jimmy Butler, playoff demon. Bam Adebayo, we've seen what he can do when the time comes. So I got to put them at 4.
At 4 for me, almost. Why
are you smiling?
Was Jimmy and Bam. But then I got to thinking, and I said to myself, well, good Lord. If I had to pick between 2 duos, and I said to myself, if I got Jimmy and Bam,
Jimmy and Bam,
or Joel and James Harden.
Oh my!
Oh no! The boys are the boy. Yep,
What?
Yep. Hold on. Let me just say. I know y'all are about to lose your mind, saying he's pissing his pants as we speak. But listen, just listen. All right. Sadie just said it. When I think about an underrated duo that's been doing it for more than a season, right? We've only seen Joel let me just preface to say, we've only seen Joel and James Harden one time. And in that last game, James Harden scored 9 points scored 9 points on less than 10 shots.
On a bad hammy.
Now he would now hold on. Let me say. On a bad hammy. Joel Embiid was banged up in that series too, but what's new about Joel Embiid being banged up in the playoffs, right? If all goes well in a perfect world, and I want you to know I sincerely mean this. If all goes right, and I mean no injuries to either of them, I got you. I got you with Joel and James at 3, right? But for me, when I look at Jimmy and Bam, Jimmy averages 20 points per game in the playoffs, but it's the loudest 20 you'll ever see in your life. It's the loudest 20 because everybody knows that Jimmy Butler basically gets shit done. It's that simple. Whatever you need from Jimmy, you need a serious extended, you need some life left in the chamber. Jimmy Butler's got you. Bam Adebayo, defensive juggernaut in the playoffs. Offensively underrated, 56% shooting on it. Like, that's insane. That's insane. Stop playing with him. Stop playing with his efficiency.
No,
because Kevin Durant shooting the same efficiency. Bam does defer. He does. And I ain't saying Kevin Durant shooting the ball wise, but I'm saying for a big man to be shooting that well and to hold down the paint when you need him to. How many times has he blocked Jason Tatum in the past 3 years at the rim? Like, damn, just give him some credit. All right. So I got Joel and Harden at the 4 spot right now, destined to change, hopefully, if all goes well. No injuries at all to either of them. I want to see them both healthy. Another reason that I did have them low is because of Doc Rivers, but that's either here nor there. That's by default, it's Doc. Bro. You never know what to expect with Doc. Doc's literally the most overrated coach probably since 2008. And that was the last year he won a championship. So there you go. But I got Joel and Harden at 4. Yeah. Not by that much, not that big of a difference, but I hope y'all saw my reasoning a little bit better as I explained. Y'all can still be shaken up, I understand. But hey, give me Jimmy and Bam.
You say you're Hoop, I know what your 4 is.
Just hold up. If Bam were to come out as this aggressive guy, which seems to only happen when Hero's not shooting well, like Bam defers to everyone, it feels like, in the playoffs. If he were to be ultimately aggressive and we saw the best of Jimmy and Bam, they could put up a real good fight with Embiid and Harden when fully healthy, I guess. But I have them at 4 for now just because it's hard to, even with Harden's playoff woes, like, he's still a very valuable playmaker, and Joel Embiid is
I understand.
Embiid, so I got Jimmy and Bam. You gotta move on.
Same.
So we're into the top 3. I'm gonna go with my number 3. And this is where me and Z disagree because I don't think it's close at all. Because at number 3, I have Tatum and Brown. Tatum, a big reason why, obviously these two are superstar level players, but we've seen Tatum disappear a lot, especially in that finals run last year. Jaylen Brown does a phenomenal job of holding down the fort when Jason Tatum disappears. Jason Tatum broke the record for most turnovers in a playoff run in NBA history by one player last year. Jaylen Brown, obviously, I'm not saying he was. Jaylen Brown was amazing. Jason Tatum was amazing. Don't say I'm taking that away from Jason Tatum, but I'm just saying when it comes to the two big dogs in terms of duos, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't go in that conversation with me. They're right outside of it. A big reason is their inconsistency. The Celtics find a lot of their success, of course, through those two guys, but people also have to remember it's a team-oriented game, and when it comes to the Celtics team, they're built beautifully. The Celtics have a great team around them. Tatum can shoot 6 for 18, and they can still win by 20 points, which is why I have to have them at number 3 when we're talking duos.
I already said my three is Jimmy and Bam Bam Shrimp, but Hoop, you can go ahead and rumble. I really want to get into the Celtics talk because Sadie just said some interesting points right there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, my 3 is Embiid and Harden, and we're gonna get into a little Celtics Sixers thing. We're already at our usual time limit. I don't know how you, Sadie, feel about going on.
It's fine. Our discussion's only going to be the top 3 anyway. So we're fine.
I think when you're I think because everyone knows my thoughts on Jason Tatum. I think it's more so Jaylen Brown praise that I have the Celtics over the Sixers. I think comparing player to player through the four of them, I think Harden's not gonna be out there by himself where Embiid is struggling. He's not going to take over a game like Jaylen Brown can. We know Jason Tatum can when he's hot. He's done it against the Milwaukee Game 6, which was still incredibly impressive. Embiid can. I don't know if Harden can anymore, or if he really ever has to, his regular season self in the playoffs. I'm not trying to pin his playoff woes on him now because obviously I've said in the past during me and Z's argument episode about if Harden was a playoff joker was that this is really the first time we're going to see Harden healthy with his second option like he's supposed to play with. We said in Brooklyn when he was healthy against the Celtics, he murdered the Celtics with Kevin Durant. So, I think if you guys have any other points, I mean, it's just Jaylen Brown. I think it's more praise to Jaylen Brown, and I think I've slandered Tatum a lot, but come playoff time, he's like my 6th or 7th best player in the world right now. I expect him to play like it, so that's why I have him high.
We should kind of a little like rush through our top 2 a little so we can have time for discussion. But at number 2, I have Embiid and Harden. Embiid, talent-wise, other than Giannis, might be the best player in the world right now. Embiid is on an absolute tear. He's doing things that I did not imagine him to be doing. He was already playing at a level I couldn't imagine him to be playing at, and the fact that he stepped it up another level, and Harden became the best playmaker in the world this season. That man is the perfect sidekick to Joel Embiid, and I don't care what you have to say about free throws and free throw merchants, because at the end of the day, that puts points on the board. I might not like the play style. You might not like the play style. But when it comes to winning basketball, it helps. So you can't complain. And they know how to do it. If you guys want to complain about free throws and why they get all the calls, why aren't other players doing it? Clearly, they're doing something right. They're maneuvering the rule book, whatever you want to say. But it still contributes to winning basketball. Embiid and Harden are the second best duo in the NBA or in the Eastern Conference for me.
I was about to say I wasn't going to bring up the whistle in terms of it being unfair. I thought it like kind of softens up in the playoffs, or hardens up rather, which is why I wasn't crazy about having them over Tatum and Brown anyway. I feel like they're not going to get as many calls as they would.
Oh no, they won't. They won't. It might be like one game.
We can't make that assumption. Like, right, you can't assume what, because refs have been different this season. So we can't assume how refs are going to be in the playoffs. But in terms of this season, remember, we're ranking this season. I know I've taken like experiences, what they've done in the past into account, but I'm talking about how I've seen them from this season. And if I believe that they'll translate it into the playoffs, 100%, I believe Harden will 100% translate it. I think I love how people call Harden a playoff choker, but the only reason he gets out the playoffs is when he faces quite possibly the greatest team in existence in the Warriors. That's like, or if it was like the Lakers kicking him out, like it's always the team that wins the ring that kicks him out, and it's like and it's literally just him on the Rockets. With
if y'all want to hear this, a whole episode of us talking about this, me and Z had a heated discussion. Probably
there's a playoff, 40. There's a Harden playoff choker. It's literally called Harden. Is Harden a playoff choker? But I'm just saying, Harden is great in the playoffs. I hate that idea that he isn't. And the fact that you gave him, the fact that I argued for it, and that's still. Don't give me that meh. Don't give me that meh, because Harden was playing alone. Alone, and he still made it that deep in the playoff runs. He has Embiid now. Now in that Sixers team. You got Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, all these shooters that you can throw the ball to with Harden's playmaking skills. Are you kidding me? Bro, Harden and Embiid at number 2. If they don't see each other in the second round, the Eastern Conference Finals is going to be the Sixers and the Bucks.
Deep. Now, for my number 2, I have Tatum and Brown, and that's mainly because I've seen these two since they were Jits in the league in the playoffs, and I've seen them. So basically, when I look at this team, these two as a duo alone, the amount of experience that these guys have had in the Eastern Conference is more than a lot of other duos can say, including James Harden and Joel Embiid, pretty much by default, but. This team has been to the Eastern Conference Finals with they went to 7 games with LeBron James at the ages of 18 and 19 and 20. Like, bro, like they were jits when they went up against LaThanos. And then they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals since. They've been to the finals since. They've been bounced out to semifinals. They've been swept the Nets, swept KD, held them to the lowest field goal percentage that he's ever had in his career in the playoffs in a series alone. So they've experienced everything, and the last thing that they have left to experience is winning a championship. Like, it couldn't be as simple as that. So when I look at them, and I asked myself a question the other day, and it was, if the Celtics make it back to the finals, if they beat Milwaukee, if they beat the Philadelphia, and they make it back, will things be different? Will Jason Tatum play as bad as he did last year? Or will we look back at that year 5 years down the road and say, oh, it was his first finals appearance? You know, Sunday scaries, jitters, whatever. Jaylen Brown played better than Jason Tatum did in the finals. Still kind of miffy when you're comparing him to other guys like, I don't know, Andrew Wiggins. But, like, Brunson did enough to keep them, there, Don't sit there and tell me that Jaylen Brown outplayed Andrew Wiggins in the finals. Don't try that. Don't you even.
I just said comparing him to Andrew Wiggins.
Look at the Finals MVP voters.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's just Wiggs.
With the Finals MVP votes, the Warriors won the series. What?
Exactly, and guess what Andrew Wiggins was doing to the best player on the other team?
Oh my
gosh! His ass up, getting 16 rebounds in a pivotal game 4. Stop playing with me.
You brought up Finals MVP voting to compare him to someone on a losing team.
In the finals, if you were on the winning team, maybe he would have, It's not my fault. The hell?
Bro, I have the Celtics, Tatum and Brown at 2, and number 1, Zaney. I'm interested to see what pairing we have.
So that means, okay, wait. Okay, wait. If we all have the same pairing, let's just agree on it quick, because we do have to talk about these, because we are running down on time. But I have Giannis and Drew as the duo for this season, man, because Chris Middleton's been out too long. I feel like he's going to be seen as a third option.
I had Giannis / Drew / Chris.
Yeah, I did it first, but I did pick one. If you had to pick one, what would it be?
I picked one. I picked Chris.
I had Drew at first, but I picked Chris in the sense that I feel like he's more of that closer, and he brings the best out of Giannis, which means that has their best peak duo. Like, that duo is where they can be the best. I don't know if Chris is going to be Chris to be the best, but with that, that is the best duo at their best, if that makes sense. Drew's great though. Love Drew.
Drew is phenomenal. I love Drew.
I just picked Drew because Drew, the things he's been doing this season.
That's probably the more realistic duo, because
they're gonna look to push the ball. Yeah, but anyway, I think if we all agree on number 1, I think the biggest argument we have, maybe like 5-6 minutes, we'll touch on it before we end the episode. The Sixers and the Celtics, and the reasoning why you guys have the Celtics over the Sixers. You guys remember, we're talking duos. Okay, we're talking duos. We're not talking teams. So if we're looking at Embiid and Harden compared to Tatum and Brown, my biggest reason why I have Tatum under Embiid and Harden, is inconsistency. Because when we start to dabble into this area of the list where every guy we're talking about is a superstar, basically, right? Like, we're into superstar level duos, right? Jaylen Brown, I love Jaylen Brown. I think it's been known that I'm a huge Jaylen Brown fan. If you guys already haven't figured it out, I will always talk good about Jaylen Brown. And I talk good about Jason Tatum. I mean, it's hilarious how the community hates on me for trash talking Jason Tatum, but I'm the only guy who will actually call him a superstar, where these two won't.
I called him an inconsistent superstar.
He was like 0 for 7 from 3 last night.
Yeah, like, I have the most love for Jason Tatum on this pod. Right? Like, I like Jason Tatum the most on the spot. I think I back him up the most. And it's surprising to hear you guys put the Celtics over the 76ers, when you guys got to look at it as, like, who's bringing the best. Like, when you're talking about these two guys, we're not talking about them individually, these two individually compared to these two individually. We're talking about duos. And a big part of that is,
I think we can talk about them individually in the sense,
to a certain extent.
Yes, that's what I was.
But think about it this way. Sure, but Harden brings out the best out of Embiid, and Embiid brings out the best out of Harden in terms of he makes Harden's playmaking that much easier because he's playing with a guy at that level, right? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they're not like playing off of each other. They're playing iso ball every possession. Marcus Smart said it best. Their offense is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown just going at it one-on-ones with whatever team, like whatever matchup they have, right? They're not playing off of each other. Embiid and Harden, the offense is flowing through where Harden has the ball. He's finding Embiid, or if he needs it, he'll kick it out. Harden can shoot a 3. Harden can take the possession if he needs to, right? But with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, what's the duo? Jason Tatum shooting 0 for 7. All right, Jaylen Brown, go drop 30 for me. All right, bet, I will. And they do that. And that's why I have them at 3, because Jaylen Brown can I 100% trust Jaylen Brown to take the load when Tatum is inconsistent, which happens a lot more than you think, right? But Embiid and Harden, when I think of them, especially going into the playoffs, defensively, Embiid has it on lockdown. I know Harden isn't great defensively, so I'm not going to mention Harden, but Harden has been better compared to his days in Houston. I think we can agree on that. Harden's playmaking ability, you give that to Embiid. Embiid, I feel like, can play at that MVP level, not only in the regular season now, but in the playoffs. Because what was the biggest reason with Embiid trashing it in the playoffs, right? He wasn't playing as good. Why? Because Ben Simmons disappears from the planet. Ben Simmons, his second co-star, every time Embiid is in a playoff series, who was his second star? Ben Simmons. James Harden had a hamstring injury last year. Don't give me that James Harden talk. And they still beat the Raptors and made it to the second round. James Harden has never been fully healthy with Embiid in a playoff series yet. And Embiid's second guy was always Simmons. Ben Simmons is going to learn Chinese soon. So don't give me this talk that Embiid had a second guy beside him, because he didn't. Embiid's playmaker,
and
Embiid's
to be
point
fair,
guard,
Jimmy,
and Ben
Jimmy
Simmons
was not in his normal role in Philly. It didn't feel right.
Was not at all. And even when he was, even when Jimmy wasn't playing his normal role, they lost on the greatest game winner in Game 7 in NBA history. In that Game 7, they lost in one of the greatest game winners in NBA history.
But yeah,
I'll take Ray Allen, but well,
sure, okay, sure. I'm taking it because it's a Game 7. It's a Game 7 buzzer beater. Okay, and if Kawhi doesn't hit that shot, the 76ers win that game because the 76ers turned up in those final minutes.
Kawhi's
right?
the GOAT, man.
Kawhi's
the GOAT.
Yeah, Kawhi's crazy, right? 100%. But that's my reasoning. But listen, that's my reasoning why I have the Sixers over the Celtics, because you guys are really forgetting the fact that this is going to be the first time we see Embiid with a healthy co-star that actually fits him well.
No, I
think
feel
they're
you
going
on
to
that.
turn up because of it. Tatum is too inconsistent for me to put him over Embiid and Harden. He's too inconsistent, and he's breaking the wrong records, man. Most turnovers by a player in a playoff run, he's breaking the wrong records, bro. That's some Westbrook. Like if Westbrook did that, that would be everywhere. We would still be talking about that to this day. But it's Jason Tatum, and he's protected by these 14-year-olds and these Boston Celtics lovers. People don't want to mention
this
the fact
is
that
why
Tatum
you get
is
slandered
very inconsistent
for being a Tatum hater, because you go on a rant like that and you let your emotions get the best of you. You just called them a bunch of 14-year-old Celtics fans that protect Jason Tatum.
I like Jason Tatum the most on the spot. I like Jason Tatum the most on the spot. I'm talking about the cushion he gets.
Yes,
that's why
my dislike for him
Tatum.
started.
I'm not. Don't call me a Tatum. Don't call me. You just said you dislike him. Don't call me a Tatum hater.
I
love Tatum.
Is the biggest Tatum hater on this pod?
I hate the narrative around Jason Tatum in the media where he doesn't get slandered. He doesn't get called out for some of the things he does.
I mean, it's that's fair.
For you to rank Tatum and Brown as a duo over Embiid and Harden, I don't agree with that.
See, I understand that. The reason that I have them over them is experience alone. And like I said before, Tatum and Brown have experienced everything there is to experience in the playoffs since they walked into the league. It's that simple. They've been bounced out of the first round, second, Eastern Conference, and finals. They've experienced it all. They've done it all. So, being that they're so young and being that Boston's bought in on the idea that we're building around these two, last year they had arguably the best defense in the league until they met, light-skinned Jesus. But they had the best defense in the league, arguably of all time not all time, but an all-time great defense, right? That's at least what they were saying about it. I mean, we saw what happened to KD and Kyrie, two of the best scorers of all time. Nonetheless, I'm saying this. Like I said before, if Jason Tatum gets an opportunity to get back into the finals this year, I do not believe that Tatum will stink it up like he did last year. I just don't. I think that if you take a player like Jason Tatum, who knows how the fans or some fans in general feel about him, he listens to the noise. These players listen to the noise. Jaylen Brown is the one guy that they were trying to use as a scapegoat for getting him traded because they still wanted to keep Tatum. Even though I always said, don't split these guys up, because when you do, you're going to realize Jaylen Brown's going to go crazy if he's on his own team. Jason Tatum's going to go crazy if he's on his own team. But if you have the right people around them and you let them both cook at the same time and they're both hitting on all cylinders, I've seen it. I've genuinely seen it. With Joel Embiid and James Harden, the difference is, and as much as you didn't want to bring this up, I'm going to. Health and durability and availability matters to me in this sense.
But we're ranking the duos going into the playoffs right now. And
exactly.
Right now, they look better than Tatum and Brown.
If we're ranking them right now, you can say that they look better than Tatum and Brown. You can, based off of the last, 17, 20 games. But as far as I'm concerned, the Boston Celtics have been at the top of the Eastern Conference the entire year, only dropping between the 1 or the 2nd seed. So I don't want to hear that. At the end of the day, I don't want to hear
accomplishment. That's a team accomplishment. And Harden was out for like 6 weeks, and now that he's back, look at where the seating is. Look at how
he
close
was out for 7 to 6 weeks. But who's to say that we get into the playoffs and Joel Embiid doesn't get hit in the face again or to get another eye injury?
I think that's
James Harden's hamstring is literally.
I think that's a bit.
James Harden's hamstring is no.
You can say the bad hamstring, but to say someone gets hit in the face, like that's a freak injury.
Like, I'm just saying. Joel Embiid had a freak injury last year. That's what happened. When he got hurt last year, I was like, there's a difference
between having a bad ankles.
Listen to this.
Or what?
Listen to this, okay? The Celtics, look, the Harden was out for a good like 6-7 weeks, and they have the exact same record as the Celtics right now. The Celtics and the Sixers have a 46-22 record. No, I'm looking at it right now. 46-22. 46-22. I'm looking at it right now.
This says that the Celtics are 48-22.
48. I have bad eyesight. My bad. Anyway, they both have the same amount of losses. The Celtics have 2 games on them. Okay.
Yeah. And I feel that. And like you said, Philly's been rolling. They're on a 6-game winning streak. I get that. I get all of that. I'm just saying, when I'm looking at these duos, and I don't know if I'm looking at this from a I don't know, like a story time perspective or whatever. But the way that this is looking for this duo is, give me another crack. They're already at the top. It's not like this team completely fell to the bottom after making it to the finals last year. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been doing their thing. Tatum hopped out the gate averaging 30 and was in some people's MVP cases for like a week and a half. But nonetheless, if I'm looking at them and I'm saying the faith that I have in this team to at least be there to play is more than I have for James Harden and Joel Embiid. If you had to ask me the question of, if you have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and you have Joel and you have James Harden, who's gonna be healthy through the playoffs longer? If you ask me that question, I am picking Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum over Joel and James Harden for obvious reasons. Shouldn't even be a debate. Shouldn't even be a topic of discussion.
But
you can say recency bias if you want to.
We're talking about right now in the regular season, so health shouldn't play a factor.
We're
talking about what the duos right now. The idea was regular season duos, who looks the best right now heading into the playoffs. You cannot assume an injury.
Okay, can I assume
just like how you
bad playoff performances from James Harden? Just like you could assume from Jason Tatum?
You can't because James Harden. I am telling you right now, James Harden is not going to have a bad playoff run this year. I'll tell you. I
said that the last 5 years.
I said that but the last 5 years, did he have a Joel Embiid beside him? Or did he have
he's had Dwight's and Chris Paul's and 60-win teams and
Dwight Howard in 2014?
All these things.
Dwight Howard in 2014.
He's had 50-win seasons. He's had
61 seasons.
Dwight Howard
who does he lose
in 2014 was Dwight Howard. Was Dwight Howard the top 3 big men in the league in 2014? Was Dwight Howard a top 3 big men in the league in 2014?
Who does he lose to? Was Dwight Howard
a top 3 big men in the league? Who does he lose to in the
playoffs? The greatest team of all time.
A team that he could have beat. The same team.
The same team that didn't have Kevin Durant and beat your Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum lost to them without Kevin Durant. The same team that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum lost to. That's the team that
so they lost to the champions last year, right?
Yes.
The same argument that you used for
Harden. So did the Harden bring it.
And his all-time argument.
No, I'm saying
I'm not saying I can use for them for a recency argument.
So don't say that James Harden is a playoff. Exactly. Don't say I don't know if James Harden's going to show up in the playoffs because I can say the same thing. I'm not using them against the Celtics. No. You just said that. You just said that. Can I trust James Harden to show up? You just said, can I trust James Harden?
Yes. No. Let me talk. Can I trust James Harden to show up? Hell no, I can't. I've already explained that. I explained that 5, 6, 10 episodes ago. Don't even try to twist my words on that. I have never fallen back on that word, James Harden being a playoff choker. I have also said in the episode that if James Harden, every year James Harden goes into the playoffs, I'm rooting for him every single year. But every single time he goes into the playoffs, something happens whether he's healthy or not. Don't even give me that, he has a bad hamstring. We can go back to when he was in his prime in Houston and selling elimination games. We can look at his stats. Was he selling?
Because we went over the number. No, you didn't go over stats. Don't say you provided stats. Don't say you provided stats because I provided you game logs. I provided you game logs where he was shooting over 50%.
With the same stats. I provided you with the stats. Don't even try me there.
Hoop, you remember this conversation. Hoop, you remember this conversation.
Stay right there. I got you. Don't even worry about it. I still got the picture.
You remember this conversation where we went the games that he was. Okay, can I stop saying I got you? Let me mention this point.
I got you.
Hoop, do you remember when he was showing up? He was telling me like, game 5 of the Warriors game, this one. And I was showing him that James Harden was shooting like 8 for 13. Yeah. Like the numbers that you were bringing up, James Harden was shooting like 57%.
No.
You're going to bring up a specific.
I'm talking about
you're going to bring up a specific.
James Harden in games 5s, games 6s, games 7s in his playoff career shoots the ball worse in Game 7s than he does in Game 6s, and worse in Game 6s than he does in Game 5s alone. In Game 7s alone, James Harden, once again, shoots less than 40% from the field. I don't know how we're defending that. In Game 7s alone, shoots less than 22.4% from 3. How are we defending that? Averaging 24 a game, less rebounds, less assists. When you look at him from the regular season, Hope just said this, regular season Harden. Why have we not seen regular season Harden in the playoffs? Why have we not seen the James Harden that can go out there and give you 4 straight 50-point games in the playoffs? Why have we not seen any of that? Because
that
he's been hurt, and
that
because
number
he
is
has done it
majorly
himself.
skewed. That number is majorly skewed
Oh
because of
God.
the 1 year in the Milwaukee Bucks series, that Game 7 where James Harden had a hurt hamstring and he shot like 20% on 20 shots. That is the reason why that number is so low. Because how many Game 7s has he played in his career, to use that number? He's played 5 of them. And when one of them, he was badly injured and he was only able to shoot. And we saw that game. We saw that game where James Harden was clearly hurt. That is the reason why his Game 7 numbers are so skewed. So don't just mention a number without showing background knowledge on it.
Hey,
yes, I am.
So what
yes,
about,
I am.
so what
You're
about,
bringing up
bro?
Game 7. You're bringing up his Game 7.
So
You're bringing up his Game 7 numbers and not adding any context.
What about the game where he had 12 turnovers in an elimination game? What about that one?
Hold on.
12 turnovers in a Game 5 when they're down 3. Like, what about those games? What about the turnover games? I cannot believe this right now. I'm not about to sit here and try and argue this even more than I already have. In that debate alone, you gave me the debate in it, and you were the moderator. What do you mean? I convinced you in 45 minutes. But whatever. Go, Luke. Go.
Tell me what you got.
You didn't.
Saney, don't. My argument, like if I'm arguing for Saney, I always said that Harden had no one to hide behind when he played bad. Just like a lot of the other, I brought up Allen Iverson's names like 10 times, because he was, very inefficient as someone who's like doing a lot of on-ball scoring. So when the defense collapses on him in the playoffs, there's no one else to hide behind. There you have Joel Embiid in Philly. So I do think he'll play well. My thing with the Tatum Brown being ahead of Philly is that Joel Embiid is quite easily the offensive hub of that team even just looking as a duo. Harden clearly is made better by Embiid. And while, yes, they benefit off each other, I think the individuality of Tatum and Brown, while still being able to, like, they're very swing the ball, like their offense is very, the rock moves a lot as opposed to being Embiid centric on the Sixers. I think the fact that, Brown's doing like since March, like 28 a game really efficiently, like he's on a tear. Tatum has been like 27 a game inefficiently, but if he were to turn up, all it takes is 3 good games at the end of the season and they go into the playoffs. Even if Tatum is still inconsistent, I'd expect him to improve. He's gotten better pretty much every year. If he just has a few less inconsistent games, I still think that's great because I think Jaylen Brown's going to take a jump. We know he's a demon in the playoffs. When you're comparing him or that duo to Philly, I really like them defensively, the ability to switch. I think they're like, when your star players play defense, that is like huge for you. And Embiid's obviously a good defender, but with this scoring load he's getting, I think it's going to be even more exemplified in the playoffs. Like he's going to have a bigger scoring load, which means it's going to be harder to, be mobile in those pick and rolls on defense. That's obviously an assumption, but I just think in general, a big who is your offensive motor is not going to be as, he'll play defense in big moments, but he's not going to be locked down like someone like who's not being, used on offense as much. I think that's just common knowledge. I think talent wise, like just put him up in one, player for player in the regular season, it's very close. But I do think the individuality of Tatum and Brown matters to an extent because when the Celtics are playing well, it's a well-oiled machine. I know we're talking about duos, but I am taking into account how they play because I do think that's important. It's not like 2K overalls. So I think that's more my thing. And once again, I'm a known Tatum hater, but I do expect him. Like he's supposed to be really, really good, and I think he's going to be more consistent this playoffs. He's supposed to be that number one, and my faith in Jaylen Brown is just keeping.
I don't know if I can say he's going to be more consistent this playoffs because he hasn't even been consistent in the regular season.
That's a fair point. It really is. It is a fair point. But I just think that when we're talking about inconsistencies, you can't just mention James Harden. Like,
Sure,
like,
but Harden's in a different situation. Tatum is in the situation right now where he is inconsistent. You're bringing up Harden's past. I'm bringing up Harden this season with Joel Embiid beside him. You're bringing up Jason Tatum, the same Jason Tatum that was inconsistent with the exact same team he's on right now. James Harden is in a completely different situation. His play style is completely different. He has a number two in he's the number two, but his main guy to hit to is Joel Embiid. This is a different James Harden. This is a different situation. You're bringing up the same inconsistent Tatum against a different Harden, and you're using Harden's past and his woes on a different team and a different situation to make the argument that that duo is better. That was my issue. This is a different team and a different situation.
I feel that. This team, all I gotta say, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, is all of what Sandy just heard, ladies and gentlemen, all of what he just said, ladies and gentlemen, is great. Ideally, I want to believe that James Harden, and I also believe that James Harden is in a situation where this is probably the best teammate he's had ever. And I mean, because this guy is a perennial MVP candidate, not just an all-star, right? So in this situation, you look at the team that he has around him and all of these things, it better go well. That's all I got to say. I am not fooling myself anymore. And I'm going to say this is the last thing. If the Sixers get bounced this year, Doc Rivers is fired. That's what's going to happen.
100%. Anyway, we're reaching the end of our episode here. Thank you so much for listening to episode 59. If you haven't already, make sure to check out the chalkboard. Our next episode will be the Western Conference duos. We will see you guys in episode 60. Join the Discord. Peace.